Hi, this is Jennifer Toronto with She Shall Be Praised, a podcast where we try to talk about the issues that women face and how to help each other and support each other and be able to learn from each other rather than making the mistakes ourselves and doing everything the hard way. Whether you're a stay-at-home mom or a career woman, sometimes life can be very isolating, and so the purpose of this is really to say that we share many of the same struggles, and this is, how I've dealt with it. This is what's come out of it in my life and the lessons that I've learned, and hopefully to be able to share that with others. Ultimately, it's not about me. This is about being a woman and a mom and someone with a career. So we had sickness go through the house last week. This blog post was supposed to be for last week and it just didn't happen. I was going to start outside. I was going to go sit outside, but it rained a little while ago. It was hot, it was humid, and it started to drizzle. So I came back in and here we are. The blog post that I'm reading today is titled Abba's Father, Our Father in Heaven. I originally wrote it in 2010. I am going to read the intro that I wrote. However, I want to say that this was prompted by a book I was reading for our homeschooling curriculum. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. I'm going to read the blog post and then I'll talk a little bit more about, what prompted it, what it meant to me, and still means to me. So here we go. This post was written in July of 2010. That was almost 15 years ago. My relationship with my father has changed over the years, and some of the feelings I expressed in this post are different now. I don't want to change the words, however, because this is how I felt when I encountered this at 35 years of age. Changing it, I think, would lessen the power of the encounter. I will never know the relationship of a young child relying daily on her father, because I can never go back. So I'm not changing a word of this post. But I can know the relationship of an adult child relying daily on her heavenly Father, and will lean into that. My then 9-year-old son is now 24 and has no idea what his words meant to me. I'm so glad that I wrote when I did. Journal friends, you will be glad that you did. So here's the blog post. I just finished reading a book called The Chosen by Chaim Potok. The oddest thing happened to me over and over again while I read this book. Each time the Jewish boy Reuben, the main character of the book, spoke to his father, I choked up and fought back tears. Why did this happen to me? It happened because each time Reuben had a conversation with his dad, he called him Abba. No, I'm wrong. He called his father Abba. Now, what you can't hear is the first time when I wrote Abba, it was capitalized, and then the second time it was lowercase. So he called his father Abba with lowercase A-B-B-A. There was no capital letter. For Reuben, Abba wasn't a special title. It was a common word for a special relationship. For years, I've struggled to understand what it meant that Jesus called God Abba in the following verse. Abba, Father, all things are possible for you. Take this cup away from me. Nevertheless, not what I will, but what you will. So I'm going to stop right there and explain that statement again. For years, I struggled to understand what it meant that he called him Abba. Abba. What I meant by that, and what I think doesn't come through very clearly in the writing, is I don't know what it feels like to call somebody daddy. There's a feeling that accompanies that, where to say daddy is natural. It's this very close, daily, intimate relationship, and I didn't have that. So whenever I read that Jesus called God Abba, he's referring to a very close, daily, trusting, son to father relationship. Or child to father relationship, not even son, and that is what I cannot relate to. I didn't have it with my dad, and even my mom, the relationship was more complicated than a simple I was the child and she was the mother. And so this childlike trust and reliance, I don't really know what that feels like. For years back to the reading. For years I have struggled to understand what it meant that Jesus called God Abba in the following verse. Abba, Father, not all things are possible for you. Take this cup away from me. Nevertheless, not what I will, but what you will. My own dad was in and out of my life. A distance exists between him and myself that time cannot close, because the time to build that relationship has passed. If we were to become very close in the future, the relationship will still be an adult one. I have never had to depend on him for my well-being, and while we have a very good relationship, it will never be what it might have been. I learned years ago that Abba means something like daddy, but I've never felt what it feels like to call someone daddy. My own father was always dad to me. As far back as I can remember, I maintained a slight distance between him and myself, and chose to refer to him by the more formal name, Dad, out of a lack of trust. Since I have become a mother, I look to my own children to observe what it might be like. My firstborn son sometimes gives me a glimpse into that feeling. When he wants to discuss something meaningful with me, my oldest will address me as Mommy. His voice even gets softer, and he makes it evident that he's looking to me as an authority. It's a sweet moment when he calls me Mommy. I treasure these moments, but I don't really know what it feels like myself. So I was reading The Chosen, which is a book about two Jewish boys and their different families. The first time Reuben called his father Abba, I was shocked. I didn't know that the word was still in common use. The book was set during World War II and the creation of the State of Israel. He said it during a common conversation, and it came out of his mouth casually. As the book went on, Reuben used the word over and over again, in conversation after conversation. Reuben called his father Abba casually and easily, and each time he said it, I understood more clearly what it meant for him, and what it meant for Jesus, and what it means for me. For Reuben, calling his father Abba was natural and right. It wasn't a word to be used only at a special time or at a time of deep distress, as Jesus was in the Garden of Gethsemane. No. Abba was for any time, any place, and any conversation, during peace and during stress. This must have been the case for Jesus as well. How many times, on how many mountains, on how many solitary occasions, did Jesus talk to his Father in conversations, calling him Abba? We don't know how Jesus addressed his Father when he went off by himself all those times. Those prayers, those conversations were not recorded. And yet he must have said it then, and many times. Reuben sat down at the table to discuss spiritual matters with his father on a regular basis, and called him Abba at that very table. Can't we safely assume that Jesus, as he sat down to discuss spiritual matters with his father, also called him Abba? But why did I cry? What difference does it make to me what names Jesus called God? It matters to me because I'm an adopted child of God. I care because Paul tells me in the book of Romans, chapter 8, verse 15, that I received the spirit of adoption by whom we cry out, Abba, Father. I have been given the right to call God Abba. I am allowed to call him Daddy. He wants me to, and I haven't been able to understand what that means. I haven't known that kind of relationship before. I cried because the Jewish boy Reuben, Chaim Potok's creation, was teaching me what it means to be the daughter of a father, my own Abba's daughter. That's the end of the post. I have someone I know right now, and she just had a baby. She's older, and she's not married. The dad's not in the life. He's not completely out. I don't know the full circumstances, but he's also not completely in. And she had a little boy. And I think about this sometimes. You know, I was raised by my mom. I spent a lot of time with my grandparents, but I was really raised by my mom. And when I was very young, I didn't see my dad all that often. I saw him for a little while, largely between ages 10 through 12. And then as an adult, we've spent quite a lot of time together. We live closer together, and with my kids, we spent quite a lot of time together. But, you know, as a very young child, just don't know what it's like to have that kind of relationship with my dad. It is something I cannot relate to at all. And I wish I could say that it just made me stronger and it's never caused problems in my life, but that's just not true. That is 100% not true. And so I think about it in the current climate in which we live, where, you know, marriage is out of fashion, as though it's something that should even fit in the category of fashion. But I think about that, you know, there's a security and a trust and that comes with a two-parent household. You know, it's like when it's just mom or just dad, the buck stops with mom or dad. It's not shared. In a two-parent household, when the one parent is exhausted and tired and needs a break, there's someone else to step in. I'm not talking, I mean, there's unhealthy situations too, but I'm talking in you know, a fairly normal situation, not abusive or anything like that. And so there is a second layer of stability. There's you know, you're not as a parent doing it alone. And so the kids have that double layer of security, that double layer of protection. And it allows them to be able, I guess what I'm trying to say is this. What I'm not saying is I grew up way too early. My mom was not ready to be a single mom when she was. She had healing and growing that she needed to do while I was very young. And so she didn't have backup. She was alone in it. And there were many times where I was the one comforting her rather than having someone, another adult who could comfort her. And that made me grow up, and it made me not be just a child. I wasn't just a child. Now, has that made me stronger as an adult? Yeah, I think it has. You know, I think it's a role that I've been playing for a long time, and I'm good at it, and it has served me well in some ways, but my inability to feel confident in being able to trust someone else, that has really hurt me. So, you know, it saddens me whenever I hear of, you know, men or women wanting to have children but not get married, because I know what it's like as the child, you know, because I have seen the way my husband played with my children, because I have seen the different dynamics, because I've lived through being a child without two parents and then became part of two parents and had children. I know what was missing. And so it does sadden me. I saw a video not too long ago of a young woman, and she was kind of challenging this whole concept of, you know, traditional marriage and all that kind of stuff. And she was asked this question, you know, did not having your dad in your life cause you any problems? And she just said, no, I don't think so. And all I could think is, wait, honey, just wait. Because I can tell you, I'm 50 now. I remember when I was 40, beginning to see things about myself. You know, life is a constant journey of self-discovery and life discovery and growing and changing and becoming more. And I just remember distinctly after 40 realizing, wow, how did I not see that about myself? All these years, how did I not see that about myself? And a lot of the issues that I have struggled with are because I never felt secure. Because I didn't understand why my dad wasn't in my life. because I had such conflicting feelings about all that. Like there was just so much. And so this young woman who was in college, all I could think of is, you can say that now because you can't see everything yet. But as time goes on, as you get older, as you become wiser, as you learn more and see more about life, you will begin to see the ways in which it has hurt you. And what are we doing? What are we doing to our kids? It bothers me that we have demonized marriage and demonized childbearing. I think I said it either in one of these podcasts or no, maybe I put it in a post not too long ago, but out of all the accomplishments in my life, and I was the first person to graduate college in my family, both sides of my family. It wasn't easy for me because emotionally I had a lot to deal with. I actually took a break and then went back and finished. I have started more than one business. I have been a stay-at-home mom and raised my children and been a wife and been a business owner all at the same time. I continue to homeschool even though I've gone back to work full-time. I work full-time outside of the home. I do that in quotation marks because it's kind of, I can choose where I work from. I can work from home, I can work outside, but the work is outside. And my future's bright. Things are looking up. So I've done all these things and I'm very confident and capable. But I can tell you that the thing I am most proud of in my life, the thing that has had the most impact and been most significant, if I had to give up everything and keep this thing, it would not be the college degree. It would not have been the businesses. It would be my family. It would be my sons. Having children, and I have 4 sons, having children allowed me to see the beauty in life again. Because babies are beautiful. They see the world, the way they interact with the world, it's beautiful. It's simple. It's wonderful. That's how they see things. And when you're a parent, you get to revisit that. You get to see that again. Having 4 sons and watching them grow up, they adored me. I was the princess in my house. And so when I look at men, I can't hate men. I know what's inside of a man. I know deep down what they want because I have seen it before the layers of life and defensiveness and all that cover it up. I know that what a little boy wants more than anything. And so how can I hate men? Like it's not even an option for me because I have been a mother. Not that I would be tempted to anyway. Not necessarily. I mean, I'm not necessarily built that way. My point is like, there's not a whole lot of difference between men and women deep on the inside. We want many of the same things. We just act differently on the outside. And I got to see that firsthand because I was a mother. And being a mother and being a wife, they reveal more to you about you than if you were able to do what, like if you are not having to be checked by anyone else, if your behaviors are only affecting you and not affecting anyone else, then it's a lot easier to go through life with misconceptions that stay in place. When you're a wife and when you're a mother, your desires get a check on them. And then you get to really look at, or not even desires, thought processes, patterns, your reactions. I was really angry when I was young. And when that anger would come out, when I was dealing with my children, that was what told me I wanted to stop it. I didn't want to be angry with my children. I never wanted to raise my voice to them, yell at them. I never wanted to act out in anger to them. And so it gave me a strong incentive to begin to control my own anger. And that's just an example. There are many examples like that. So being married, having children, they make us a better person. They help us gain self-discipline. They give us a reflection in which to look and to evaluate our own actions. And it's just really sad to me that we're removing that from our society. So I think I'm going to go ahead and stop there. You know, I didn't even really talk much about the beauty that we can even call God Abba, Daddy. And honestly, it's still a struggle for me because I don't know that feeling. I have struggled with feeling God as distant because my dad was distant. And so to call him Abba is it's a difficult concept for me. And I guess I say this because, you know, I am not alone. Increasingly, I am not alone in this. And so I wanted to put that out there. I wanted to get it out there. And just let people know, like, yeah, you can make choices. There are always consequences to choices. Sometimes the consequences are good. Sometimes the consequences are bad. Sometimes you get both with choices, good and bad. And either choice you make, there's going to be good and bad. But this is something, you know, the effects of being raised in a one-parent household. You know, that's something that is not talked about enough. And so here I am. I'm talking about it. So let me know, you know, if you have any perspective on this that's in agreement with mine or counter to mine, or, you know, have any of you been raised in a situation where you didn't have the kind of relationship where you could say daddy, and yet somehow you learned how to do it? I would love to hear from you. Because I think still, even though I understand on an intellectual level, you know, what it means that I can call God Daddy, it still feels foreign to me. I still can't relate to that feeling. It is, you know, I relate on many other levels, but just the daddy part of it, you know, I struggle with that. So that's the end of this one. I'm going to follow and do another one of these for today's or yesterday's blog, which was a really good one too. I enjoyed that one. So I would love to hear from you. Drop me a note, send me a comment, check out my website, send me an email. And I would love for us to have a conversation. All right, have a good one.